Most households spend over 400 tons every month on groceries, even when they don't need to. This usually happens because people buy too many items they barely use, while ignoring what they rely on every day. Over time, this leads to overspending, food waste, and frequent extra trips to the store. In reality, a household only needs a small group of basic grocery items to cook regular meals and get through the month comfortably. This video will show you 20 everyday grocery items that people use the most at home. When you focus your shopping on these items, you can cut out unnecessary purchases and bring your grocery bill down by 60%. These items are affordable, easy to find, and can be used in many different meals throughout the month. As you watch, you'll see how replacing expensive or rarely used items with simple staples can make a big difference in your monthly spending. 20. Toilet paper. Toilet paper is one of those grocery items every household needs, yet it's rarely planned properly. Most people only think about it when they're almost out, which leads to rushed, overpriced purchases that quietly inflate monthly grocery spending. When toilet paper isn't bought intentionally, households often grab smaller packs or whatever brand is available at the moment. These emergency buys usually cost more per roll and don't last very long, forcing repeat purchases within the same month. Buying toilet paper in bulk changes this completely. A single bulk purchase can last weeks, sometimes an entire month or more, depending on household size. This removes the pressure of frequent restocking and helps keep grocery spending predictable. Because toilet paper is non-negotiable, planning for it upfront prevents last-minute store trips where extra items often end up in the cart. One planned purchase replaces multiple smaller, more expensive ones. When toilet paper is treated as a core grocery item instead of an afterthought, it becomes much easier to control overall spending. It's a simple habit, but it plays a big role in keeping monthly grocery costs from creeping higher than expected. Most grocery overspending doesn't come from big purchases. It comes from replacing cheap basics with convenience food. 19. Pasta. Pasta is a basic grocery item that almost every household buys, yet very few people actually use it enough. Instead of treating pasta as a regular meal foundation, it's often pushed to the back of the cupboard and only used occasionally, while more expensive ready meals and convenience foods quietly take its place. Because pasta feels simple, people underestimate its value. When it doesn't feel like a proper meal, people replace it with frozen dinners, takeaway food, or pre-made options that cost far more and don't last nearly as long. In reality, pasta is one of the most affordable foods you can keep at home. It's cheap, easy to store, and stays usable for months. With everyday ingredients like tinned tomatoes, onions, garlic, eggs, or a small amount of cheese, pasta turns into filling meals without extra spending. When pasta is treated as a staple instead of a backup, it starts replacing expensive alternatives. Busy days no longer lead to impulse food purchases because there's already something simple, reliable, and filling waiting at home. Pasta also reduces food waste. It works perfectly with leftovers and small portions of ingredients that might otherwise be thrown away. Instead of buying new items to complete meals, pasta helps stretch what you already have. Over time, using pasta regularly changes how households shop. You stop buying convenience food just in case, and grocery spending becomes more predictable and controlled. And what most people don't realize is that the next item works the same way. It's just as cheap, just as flexible, and it quietly replaces even more expensive sides and meal add-ons than pasta ever could. 18. Potatoes. Potatoes are one of the most affordable and useful foods in any household, yet many people underestimate how much money they can actually save. Because they're seen as basic, they're often replaced with frozen sides, instant foods, or takeaway options that cost significantly more and don't last as long. A single bag of potatoes can support many meals throughout the month. They work for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they can be cooked in several simple ways without needing extra ingredients. Boiled, baked, roasted, or mashed. Potatoes adapt easily to whatever else is already in the kitchen. When potatoes are always available at home, they quietly replace expensive side dishes and convenience foods. Instead of buying frozen chips, boxed sides, or ready-made meal add-ons, households rely on potatoes to make meals feel complete and filling. Potatoes also help reduce food waste. They store well, don't spoil quickly, and can be used gradually without pressure. Unlike many fresh foods that need to be eaten immediately, potatoes give households flexibility, which means fewer forgotten items and fewer replacements bought mid-month. Over time, keeping potatoes stocked changes shopping habits. Meals become simpler, portions stretch further, and fewer emergency grocery trips are needed. That consistency alone helps keep grocery spending predictable and under control. This pattern keeps repeating. When one simple food disappears from the kitchen, spending rises fast as people reach for quicker, more expensive substitutes without even noticing. 17. Eggs. Eggs are one of the most relied on foods in everyday households, yet people rarely notice how much they depend on them until they're gone. When eggs aren't available at home, meals start to fall apart in small but expensive ways. Instead of making a quick breakfast or simple meal, people turn to packaged foods, cafe stops, or takeaway options that cost far more and don't stretch very far. What feels like a small replacement in the moment quietly adds up over the course of the month. A single carton of eggs can cover multiple meals across the day. They work for breakfast, quick lunches, simple dinners, and even baking, all without needing many extra ingredients. Scrambled, boiled, fried, or baked into a dish, eggs adapt to whatever time or energy level you have. Eggs are also one of the most cost-effective sources of protein you can keep at home. They're filling, versatile, and reliable, which means fewer snack purchases and fewer impulse food decisions when hunger hits. Keeping eggs stocked reduces the need for packaged breakfast foods and convenience meals. Instead of buying cereal bars, pastries, or ready-made options, households rely on something they already have, saving both money and time. Over the course of a month, this small habit creates consistency. Meals stay simple, grocery trips become less frequent, and spending stays more predictable. And one everyday habit quietly decides whether food costs stay low or start creeping up again. 16. Tea or coffee. Tea or coffee is part of the daily routine in most households, which is exactly why it's an easy place to overspend without noticing. Because it's consumed every day, small choices around it quietly repeat again and again throughout the month. Many people buy multiple types at once, different flavors, premium brands, or single-serve options, thinking it adds variety. In reality, those extras run out quickly, cost more per cup, and often sit unused once the novelty wears off. Choosing just one option and sticking to it keeps spending under control. A single box of tea bags or one bag of coffee can last weeks when used consistently, replacing repeated small purchases that add up faster than expected. Planning tea or coffee as part of the regular grocery shop also reduces impulse spending. When it's already stocked at home, there's less temptation to grab drinks on the way out or add extra items during store visits just in case. This simple habit doesn't just save money on groceries, it reduces outside spending too. Fewer cafe stops and fewer convenience drinks mean daily routines become cheaper without feeling restricted. Over time, simplifying something this small helps keep grocery costs predictable. When everyday habits are planned instead of reactive, budgets stop drifting upward without explanation. And once routines like this are simplified, it becomes much easier to see how many other everyday purchases quietly follow the same pattern. 15. Cooking oil. Cooking oil is something almost every household uses, yet it's an easy place for grocery spending to slowly creep higher. Many people buy several different types at the same time. One for frying, one for roasting, one for baking, and most of them sit half-used in the cupboard. Because oil lasts a long time, this overspending isn't obvious at first. Bottles are replaced before the previous ones are finished, and over time, money gets tied up in products that don't meaningfully change everyday meals. In reality, most home cooking only requires one basic cooking oil. Frying, roasting, baking, and general meal prep can all be done with a single option without affecting taste or quality in any noticeable way. When households stick to one oil, grocery shopping becomes simpler. You stop buying replacements too early, stop paying extra for specialty products, and avoid clutter that leads to forgetting what you already have at home. This also reduces waste. Oils that go unused eventually expire, especially when several bottles are open at once. By keeping it simple, each bottle actually gets used and money stops leaking into forgotten cupboard items. Over a month, this small decision removes repeated, unnecessary spending. It doesn't feel like a sacrifice, but it quietly keeps grocery costs lower and more predictable. What makes this even more interesting is that the next item is something many people buy weekly, even though a single purchase can last far longer than they expect. 14. Flour. Flour is one of the most overlooked grocery items in many households, even though it can replace several foods people buy every week. Because baking feels time-consuming, flour is often ignored in favor of bread, wraps, pastries, and ready-made snacks. In reality, flour allows you to make simple foods at home with very little effort. Basic flatbreads, pancakes, dumplings, and baked goods can all be made using ingredients most households already have. This reduces the need to buy multiple packaged items. When flour is available at home, it gives you flexibility. Instead of buying different types of bread or snack foods, you can make what you need in small amounts, which cuts down both spending and waste. Over the course of a month, flour quietly replaces many repeat grocery purchases and helps keep food costs lower than expected. The next item is something people buy constantly without realizing how much money it actually saves when used correctly. 13. Oats. Oats are one of the cheapest and most reliable grocery items you can buy, yet many households overlook them in favor of boxed cereals, granola, and snack bars. Those options feel convenient, but they cost more, run out quickly, and often leave people hungry again not long after eating. Because oats seem plain, they're often treated as a backup instead of a staple. When they're missing from the kitchen, people replace them with repeated purchases of cereal, pastries, or packaged breakfast foods that quietly increase grocery spending week after week. A single bag of oats can cover breakfast for a long time. They can be prepared quickly, made in different ways, and adjusted to whatever else is already at home. Oats also work beyond breakfast. They can be used in baking, blended into simple snacks, or used to stretch meals by adding bulk and texture. Oats help control hunger, which reduces impulse snacking throughout the day. When meals feel more filling, households buy fewer extra items just in case, and grocery trips become more intentional instead of reactive. They also have a long shelf life, which means very little waste. Unlike many packaged foods that go stale or get forgotten, oats can be used gradually without pressure, making them one of the safest staples to keep on hand. Over the course of a month, oats quietly replace multiple repeat purchases and help stabilize grocery spending without changing how often people eat. What really keeps grocery costs low is having ingredients that turn into full meals on demand. 12. Tinned tomatoes. Tinned tomatoes are a basic grocery item that many households buy occasionally without realizing how useful they actually are. Instead of using them as a regular staple, people often rely on jarred sauces and ready-made meals that cost much more. One tin of tomatoes can be used to make pasta sauces, soups, stews, rice dishes, and one-pot meals. With just a few simple ingredients, it replaces multiple expensive products that are marketed as quick fixes. Because tinned tomatoes have a long shelf life, they reduce the pressure to buy fresh sauces or meals that spoil quickly. Keeping a few tins at home makes it easier to cook simple meals without extra spending. Over time, using tinned tomatoes as a base food helps cut down on convenience purchases and keeps grocery costs steady. The next item is one of the cheapest sources of protein available, and many people still overlook it. 11. Dried beans or lentils. Dried beans and lentils are some of the cheapest foods in the grocery store, yet many households rarely buy them. They're often seen as boring or time-consuming, so people replace them with more expensive meat-heavy meals without thinking twice. In reality, beans and lentils are filling, nutritious, and incredibly cost-effective. A single bag can provide multiple meals across the month, especially when combined with rice, vegetables, or potatoes. They stretch meals without making portions feel smaller Because they're dry and shelf-stable, they don't spoil quickly. This means less waste and fewer emergency trips to the store for replacements. Once they're part of your routine, they quietly reduce how often you need to buy meat. Over time, beans and lentils help balance grocery spending while still keeping meals satisfying and regular. What's coming next is a protein most households already buy, but rarely use in the most cost-effective way. 10. Chicken. Chicken is one of the most common grocery purchases, but many households spend more than necessary by buying pre-cut or packaged portions. These smaller packs look convenient, but they cost more and don't stretch very far across the week. A whole chicken or the cheapest available cut can be used for several meals instead of just one. One purchase can cover a family dinner, leftovers for the next day, and even stock or soup if nothing goes to waste. This makes it far more cost-effective than buying multiple small meat packs. When chicken is used this way, it reduces the need to buy additional protein throughout the week. It also makes meal planning easier because one item supports several meals instead of forcing repeated trips to the store. Over a month, buying chicken strategically instead of impulsively can make a noticeable difference in grocery spending, and flavor is another hidden cost. When food tastes better, people stop buying extras to fix it. People underestimate how much value they actually get from it. 9. Onions. Onions are one of the most frequently used ingredients in everyday cooking, yet many households overlook how important they are for saving money. Because they're inexpensive, people don't think of them as a staple worth planning around. Onions form the base of countless meals, adding flavor to rice, pasta, soups, stews, eggs, and meat dishes. When onions are available at home, simple ingredients taste better, which reduces the need for sauces, seasonings, and ready-made meals. They also last longer than many fresh vegetables, which means less food waste and fewer replacement purchases. A single bag of onions can be used gradually over the month without rushing to use them up. By keeping onions stocked, households make basic meals more satisfying and avoid spending extra money trying to improve food with expensive add-ons. Not every grocery cost comes from food. Some of the biggest leaks come from household basics. 8. Dish soap. Dish soap is a basic household grocery item that every home relies on, but it's often replaced far more often than necessary. Many people buy small bottles, switch brands frequently, or use more product than needed without realizing it. Because dish soap feels inexpensive, it rarely gets planned as part of a monthly grocery shop. Instead, it's picked up randomly, often during extra store trips where more unplanned items end up in the cart. A single bottle of dish soap can last much longer when used correctly. Only a small amount is needed for each wash, and buying a larger bottle reduces how often it needs to be replaced. When dish soap is planned and bought intentionally, it helps eliminate emergency purchases and unnecessary grocery runs. Over time, this simple habit contributes to keeping overall grocery spending under control. The next replacement item is something people consume every day. Yet many households overspend on it without realizing there's a cheaper, simpler approach. 7. Salt. Salt is one of the most essential grocery items in any household, yet many people overspend by buying multiple spice blends and seasonings they barely use. Cupboards fill up with jars that expire before they're finished, quietly wasting money. In reality, salt and just one basic all-purpose seasoning are enough for most everyday meals. They work across rice, pasta, vegetables, eggs, and meat without needing anything extra. This keeps cooking simple and predictable. When households limit themselves to the basics, grocery lists shrink and repeat purchases disappear. Instead of chasing new flavors through expensive products, meals stay affordable and consistent. What's coming next is a daily use item that people replace far more often than necessary, and it adds more to monthly grocery costs than most realize. 6. Milk. Milk is one of the most commonly purchased grocery items in households, yet it's often bought without any planning. People grab it repeatedly for drinks, cereal, tea, or cooking, which can lead to unnecessary extra trips to the store. When milk is treated as a planned staple rather than an impulse item, it becomes much more cost-effective. It can be used for breakfasts, cooking, baking, and drinks, reducing the need to buy separate products for each purpose. Choosing one type of milk or milk alternative and sticking to it also helps avoid waste. Instead of trying different options that go unused, households save money by keeping it simple and consistent. The next item is something most people buy every week, but rarely think about how much of it gets wasted. 5. Bread. Bread is a regular grocery purchase in most households, but money is often wasted by buying too many options at once. Multiple loaves, wraps, or rolls end up going stale before they're finished. Sticking to one type of bread keeps things simple and reduces waste. Bread can be used for breakfasts, lunches, and quick meals throughout the week without needing extra products. When bread is bought with intention instead of habit, it stops being a repeat expense and becomes a reliable staple that supports simple, low-cost meals. The next item is something small, cheap, and often overlooked, yet it quietly replaces several expensive grocery habits at once. Some of the biggest monthly costs come from everyday household items that people replace without thinking. These are items you can't skip, can't delay, and usually buy in a rush, which is exactly why they deserve a place on this list. 4. Laundry detergent. Laundry detergent is a grocery store essential that every household needs, yet it's one of the most commonly overspent items. Many people buy small bottles, switch brands often, or replace it too frequently without realizing how long it should actually last. Small containers seem cheaper, but they run out quickly. This leads to repeated purchases within the same month, which quietly pushes grocery spending higher than expected. When laundry detergent is bought in a larger size and used correctly, it can last weeks or even longer. Most loads require less detergent than people think, and overuse only causes waste and faster replacement. Planning detergent as part of your monthly grocery shop removes emergency purchases and extra store trips. This also reduces impulse buying, which is where budgets usually start to break down. Treating laundry detergent as a planned essential instead of a last-minute buy helps keep grocery spending predictable and under control. The next replacement item is something almost every household uses daily, and it's often bought far more often than necessary. 3. Fruit. Fruit is something most households buy every week, but money is often wasted by buying too much variety at once. Different fruits spoil at different speeds, and a portion of them usually ends up thrown away. Choosing just one main fruit keeps things simple and affordable. Bananas or apples are inexpensive, easy to find, and used regularly for snacks, breakfasts, and quick meals. They also work well on their own without needing extra preparation. When households limit fruit purchases to one reliable option, waste drops and repeat shopping slows down. This small change helps keep grocery spending predictable and prevents unnecessary top-up trips. 2. Peanut butter. Peanut butter is one of the most practical grocery items a household can buy, yet it's often treated as an occasional extra rather than a staple. Many people overlook it because it feels simple, but that simplicity is exactly what makes it so cost-effective. A single jar can cover breakfast, snacks, and even light meals throughout the month. It pairs easily with bread, oats, or fruit and doesn't require cooking, which reduces the need to buy packaged snack foods or quick convenience items. Because peanut butter is filling and high in protein, it helps control hunger between meals. This alone cuts down impulse purchases like snack bars, pastries, or takeaway food that quickly increase grocery spending. Another advantage is its long shelf life. It doesn't spoil quickly, which means very little waste. Instead of replacing multiple small snack items every week, one jar quietly does the job over time. When used consistently, peanut butter replaces several repeat grocery purchases and helps keep monthly food costs steady. Everything on this list only works if there's one food that holds meals together. 1. Rice. Rice is one of the most common foods found in households, yet many people underestimate how useful it is for controlling grocery spending. Because it looks simple, it often gets pushed aside in favor of ready meals, boxed foods, or takeaway options that cost far more and don't last nearly as long. Most households buy rice in small quantities and only use it occasionally. When it runs out, they turn to more expensive alternatives because there's nothing to eat. This is where grocery bills quietly increase without people noticing. When rice is bought in bulk, it becomes a reliable base food that lasts for weeks. It allows you to build full meals without needing extra product, sauces, or packaged sides. Having rice always available at home removes the need for last-minute food purchases that quickly add up. Rice can be used in many different ways throughout the month. It works with vegetables, eggs, beans, lentils, or meat, and it stretches leftovers into additional meals. Instead of buying multiple meal-specific items, rice becomes the foundation that keeps meals simple and affordable. A single bulk purchase can replace dozens of smaller, more expensive grocery items over time. This makes rice one of the easiest ways to reduce monthly grocery spending while still eating filling, regular meals. When your grocery list is built around a small set of reliable staples, shopping becomes predictable. You stop wandering through aisles, you stop reacting to promotions, and you stop buying food that doesn't get used. Every item in your cart has a purpose. This approach also makes meals easier. Instead of constantly deciding what to cook, you rotate simple meals using the same ingredients. That reduces waste, saves time, and keeps spending consistent from month to month. When these 20 grocery items guide your shopping, staying under $400 a month becomes realistic. Not because you're eating less, but because you're buying smarter. This is what separates households that feel stuck with high grocery bills from those that quietly keep costs under control, month after month. If this list is already helping you see where your grocery money goes, take a second to like the video. It really helps more people find it. And if you want more simple, practical ways to save money on everyday living, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next one.